Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. I'd like to first seek the blessings of all the senior devotees before starting, that any words coming out today will come in the right mood, the right spirit, and the right intentions. And any benefit that I have gotten, or any benefit that may be perceived to be received, is actually to be understood actually as the grace of our spiritual masters and our predecessor acharyas. So I heard this very nice verse yesterday. There was a very nice Bhadra Purnima Zoom call yesterday, and it was really nice verse, and it kind of clarifies our intentions about what we're doing here in the Bhagavatam class. The verse is Samsara Sindhum Ati Dustaram Utti Tirsor Nanya Plaba Bhagavata Purushottamasya Leela Katha Rasani Sevanam Antarena Pumso Bhaved Vivida Dhukka Davardithasya. So it's described in this verse, Samsara Sindhum Ati Dustaram Utti Tirsor, that this Jai Shri Radha Govinda Deva Ki Jai. So in this verse, it describes samsara sindhu, where all ati dustaram utti tirsor, that this ocean of samsara is like it's an ocean of samsara, and is ati dustaram utti tirsor. We'll come back to this word do, this syllable do. Do means very difficult to cross. For some ocean body, what is it? It's a boat. So what is this verse saying? Nanya plava bhagavata purushottamasya. There's not any, na anya plava. Plava means boat. Bhagavata purushottamasya. This, except Krishna. Bhagavata purushottam. Purusha uttam. It is the uttam purusha, the highest, the supreme Lord. But what about Bhagavata purushottamasya? Leela katha rasani sevanam antarena. This Leela Katha, the narrations of the pastimes, to get the taste, and not even just the taste, is to render service to the taste. Antarena pumso bhaved vivada dukkha devardhitasya. So the translation is, so a person who is suffering in the fire of countless miseries and who desires to cross the insurmountable ocean of material existence, there's no boat except this devotion to the taste, not even just like hearing, devotion to the taste for the narrations of the Supreme Personality of God's pastimes. This is the only way. This is Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 12, Chapter 4, Text 40. This is a very nice verse to realize that when we're in the Bhagavatam class is actually by hearing these pastimes of Krishna, you're offending Lord Shiva, and nobody's happy, you know. So this is what the pastime is going, what's happened so far. So it's been quite a heavy chapter, but now we're coming towards the end of it. Kashyapa Muni is actually giving the silver lining behind all the misfortune. This is what happens when there is some curse, or where there is some misfortune. The rishis always give they understand that there's always some good that can be dovetailed to the service of the Supreme Personality of God. Just like our Srila Prabhupada, he was kicked out of Jhansi, but because he was kicked out of Jhansi, he came to the United States. So that was the silver lining behind the whole story. So in this verse, so what is the silver lining that Kashyapa Muni is giving to to Diti? He's saying that, okay, your sons are going to be the biggest demons this world has ever seen. There's not going to be, they're going to wreak havoc that this world has never seen before. Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu are going to be some bad hombres. They're going to be some bad people. But What's the benefit? One of your grandsons, Prahlad Maharaj, will be an approved devotee of the Lord. And this verse is actually it's mentioning some of these, what caliber devotee Prahlad Maharaj is. It's saying this word, it's using topmost. And it is saying Mahatam Mahishta. It's of the Mahatam is Mahishta, the greatest out of the greatest souls. So that's a very big thing coming from a Muni, Kashyapa Muni, who's the grandfather of Prahlad. He's saying his own grandson is going to be the topmost of souls. And Srila Prabhupada is giving this purport, and he's getting into the technicalities of Sthayi Bhav, Anubhav, and Mahabhav. And I did some research, and there's one nice purport where Srila Prabhupada is mentioning this, and he explains it a little bit more. This is in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 19, text 180. Srila Prabhupada says, attachment for Krishna never wanes. It increases more and more as one attains different stages. All the stages together of increasing our Krishna consciousness is called Sthayi Bhava, or continuous existence of ecstasy. The 9 forms of devotional service are Shravanam Kirtanam, also by Prahlad Maharaj coincidentally, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Pada Sevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyam Atmanivedanam. When continuous love of Godhead is mixed with the processes of devotional service, it is called Vibhava, Anubhava, Sattvika, and Vyabhichari. The devotee thus enjoys a variety of transcendental bliss. In his Amrita Pravaha Bhashya, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur states that Anubhava can be divided into 13 categories. And I won't read all of these, but some of them are like dancing, rolling on the ground, roaring laughter, hiccuping, unsteadiness. So all these are symptoms of Anubhava. And then Prabhupada goes on to say, these are the symptoms of Anubhava. Thus the transcendental mellows are experienced in different stages. Similarly, there are many other forms of expression that have been analytically studied by the Goswamis. In the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Rupa Goswami gives each and every symptom a particular name. So, according to this verse, Prabhupada, it is saying, Pravriddha Bhaktya hi Anubhavita saye. That Prahlad Maharaj is in this stage of Anubhav. He's in this stage of Sthayi Bhav, which is continuous devotional service. Ahaituki apratihata yayatma suprasidati. That is unmotivated and it doesn't stop his devotional service. So this was the high platform of of Prahlad Maharaj was on. Actually, Srila Prabhupada, you can make an argument. This is one of Prabhupada's. If you listen to all his lectures, Srila Prabhupada, this pastime of Prahlad Maharaj, he emphasizes so much. Prahlad Maharaj had a very deep impact on Srila Prabhupada, and he was very fond of this pastime. Even, what to speak of Srila Prabhupada, Lord Chaitanya, he also had such a fondness of this pastime of Prahlad Maharaj. Actually, this pastime of Prahlad Maharaj isn't new. The Bhagavatam is actually the last. It's the final Purana. If you remember, first canto, Vyasadeva is not happy, and then Narada Muni comes and says, you should write the Bhagavatam, and you have forgotten Krishna and so much other things. You have not emphasized Krishna. So actually, this story of Nrsimhadev and Prahlad Maharaj comes in the Nrsimha Purana, which is one written before. But if you look at the Nrsimha Purana, and if you look at what the 7th canto is emphasizing, they're completely different. The difference is that in the Nrsimha Purana, the emphasis is on Nrsimhadev. In the Bhagavatam, the emphasis is on Prahlad Maharaj. It is completely on Prahlad Maharaj. If you look at it, Nrsingadev it's a very small, maybe 1, 2, 3 chapters at the most. It's Prahlad's teachings to his classmates, Prahlad's tribulations, Prahlad, everything, the whole canto. But you think Lord Chaitanya, he has come to taste this mood of Radharani, but why would you would think he would only study the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, right? Parasa, Panchadhyaya, all these things. Actually, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the Tota Gopinath, he would sit with Gadadhar Pandit and he would discuss 7th canto 3 hours a day, 108 times it's described in just this pastime. These two pastimes they would emphasize. Prahlad Maharaj, and do you know the other one? Anybody know the other one? Dhruva Maharaj. They would just relish this 108 times, and every time they would finish the pastime, they'd say, again, let me hear it again. So someone to skip to the 10th canto, but if we take this analogy that the 10th canto is like the flight, but unless you get a visa and a passport through the first 9 cantos, especially the 7th canto, it's so important. You won't be able to even board your flight. You won't be able to understand. You may just be opening a book, opening the Bhagavatam and reading, but you'll actually, nothing will go, everything will be stuck in the head, nothing will go in the heart. So, unless we understand the surrender of Prahlad, we won't understand the mood of the gopis. And the gopis, their mood is much higher, but actually the mood of Prahlad is encapsulated in the mood of the gopis. But the gopis have 5 chapters of the 10th canto. Sukadev Goswami, the importance of the gopis, he gave them 5 chapters. He gives Prahlad Maharaj the whole canto, the whole 7th canto. So we can see what the emphasis of Sukadev Goswami is. It's very scientific what Sukadev Goswami wants us to understand. So Prahlad Maharaj is we can, like as we were kids, when I was growing up, I was here, my grandmother used to tell me the story of Prahlad. Oh, so great demon, Hiranya. We tell it in 5 seconds, Hiranyakash. Like same with Gajendra, alligator cut the elephant, he screamed for Krishna, Krishna came. We tell it in 5 seconds. But actually, if something is to be discussed 108 times by the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself, you better be sure that it is very significant. It's something is to be learned in there. So Prahlad Maharaj is even dear to Lord Chaitanya. So Prahlad Maharaj is dear to his spiritual master Narada Muni and is very dear to Lord Krishna. And why? Narada Muni says in 4th canto, 31st chapter, text 19, this is a very famous verse, Dayaya sarva bhuteshu santushtya yena kenava sarvendriyo pashantya cha tushyanti ashu janardana. He says, Prahlad did these 3 things. Narada Muni is saying, if you want to be close to tushyanti ashu janardana, you do these 3 things. You do these simple things. Dayaya sarva bhuteshu. You need to be showing mercy to all living entities. And santushta, that in Kannada and many Sanskrit languages, santosha, that you need to be very happy. You need to be satisfied, not always endeavoring and always and getting nowhere. But you have to be happy with what you have. And what is the last one? Sarva indriya upashantya, controlling all the senses. These are and those who do these 3 things, tushyatya ashu janardana. They become very happy. And Prahlad did these 3 things. He did all 3. He showed compassion. Anybody? How did he show compassion? Did any examples?
He taught his classmates. He said you should pray instead of playing on the playground.
Yeah, just playing. He also showed. I was hearing he showed compassion to his teachers. How did he show his compassion to his teachers? When Shanda and Amarka were just giving him all the political talk, how to be a controller, how to be this and that, he wasn't arguing with them. He was just hearing, listening, and then when they would ask him questions, he would respond to what the answer they wanted. But then when Hiranyakashipu goes up to Prahlad and says, "Oh, Prahlad, what did you learn in your school?" And then he says, "No, I just learned devotion to Krishna." So that's all. Like even this is a common thing that not to argue with the teachers. Even Lord Chaitanya and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, I don't know for how long, 18 days or something.
7 days.
7 days. He was just sitting there listening to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, this impersonal philosophy. He was just expounding about the Vedanta Sutra, and then Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya says, that you either understood everything or you didn't understand anything. And then Lord Chaitanya was like, actually, I understood the Vedanta. I just don't understand what you're trying to say. What's your twist on the Vedanta Sutra? So this is a common theme that just to hear. So compassion. He paid attention, and then he would his classmates. Those wonderful prayers. He would show compassion on them, and so the second thing is santushtya yena kenava, that he was satisfied. Prahlad Maharaj was satisfied either in the palace and the lap of his kingly father, and his father was he was such a big king that Lord Indra would shudder in fear when even Hiranyakashipu would move his eyebrow. Just move his eyebrow. Lord Indra. And he had demigods, working in his palace and maybe in the kitchen or something like that. This is the caliber of Hiranyakashipu, and he could have had all the riches of the world, anything he wanted. His father wanted him to be like a very nice demon. Just be just like him. Have all the money, have all the women, have all the riches, everything. But he was satisfied there too. But he said, I actually want to be devoted to Krishna. And even when his father tried to kill him, murder him mercilessly, he was satisfied. Throw me in the fire, throw me in the pit of snakes, boil me in oil, satisfied. Krishna is there to save me. That is the conviction of Prahlad Maharaj. And what is the last thing that Narada Muni says to be dear to Janardhan? Sarvendriyo pashantyacha. He is all his senses are under control. Not one shloka, not one verse, when Prahlad Maharaj is going through hell and high water, he's going through all these things, he never shouted. He never shouted at God. He said, and Nrsingadev, he said, are you really there? Just to remind you, Prahlad Maharaj, when the servants of the demon Hiranyakashipu pushed Prahlad Maharaj off a cliff, Nrsingadev, Lord Vishnu did not save him at the top of the cliff. He saved him at the bottom of the cliff. He caught him at the bottom of the cliff. This is a very significant point. He never shouted. He never lost his cool. And what to speak of being angry towards Krishna? He never even said one thing to his father. Why are you doing this? Why are you... If someone's trying to kill you, the valid question is, why are you trying to kill me? So he never asked any of this. He was just... and so this is one of the first lessons we can learn from Prahlad Maharaj is tolerance. And what is the next thing? I brought 3 points. Let's see what... how far we can get. There's a nice verse in the 9th chapter of the 7th canto, and this is a very famous verse. One of the most, I looked in the Prabhupada Shlokas book, and this is one of the most quoted shlokas by Srila Prabhupada. And it would be very nice if everybody can learn this. Naivod vijay paraduratyaya vaitaranyas Tvad virya gayana mahamrita magna chitta soche tato vimukha chetasa indriyartha maya sukhaya bharam udvahato mimudhan. This is Canto 7, Chapter 9, Text 43. And Prahlad Maharaj is saying something very, very interesting. He's saying, I'm not disturbed. Nayod vijay paraduratyaya vaitaranyas. And everything is actually very easy for me. You know why it's very easy? Tvad virya gayana mahamrita magna chitta. I just sing the names of your names, and it's very easy for me to cross this ocean of material suffering. But soche, Soche is translated by Prabhupada. There is one lamentation. I'm lamenting over one thing. Soche tato vimukha chetasa indriyartha maya sukhaya bharam udvahato vimudhan. My concern is for the fool, and this is Prabhupada's translation, I'm not calling anybody names. My only concern is for the fools and rascals who are making elaborate plans for material happiness and maintaining their families, societies, and countries. I am simply concerned with love for them. This is the mood of the pure devotees, is that we can, because we are in such favorable circumstances, like even Prahlad Maharaj, he didn't have any favorable circumstance. I was remembering a pastime of Radha Govinda Maharaj. Someone came up to him and said, Maharaj, I'm not able to chant my rounds. I'm having so much problem. I'm having schoolwork and my parents aren't favorable. And he said, your parents aren't favorable? Prahlad Maharaj's parents were favorable? They were favorable to devotional service? No. And he was still Virya Gayana Mahamrita Magna Chitta. He was also chanting Hare Krishna. Why don't you chant Hare Krishna? If you think you have it worse than Prahlad Maharaj, then fine. But I don't think anybody falls under that category in this material world. So we have no excuse. So this is actually the mood of the devotees, that we must. What is that phrase that that one feels sadness by seeing other people sad. Para dukkha dukhi. Yeah, this para upakar. This is the reason we see so many people trying to enjoy the material world again. Prahlad Maharaj says again in another verse, punas punar charvita charvananam. He said they're repeatedly chewing the chewed. If I chew a piece of gum, get all the juice of it, and then Abe sees, Hadai has chewed this gum. There must be some flavor. Let me also chew this. There's no flavor. You're just getting Hadai. it's ain't no mercy in that. It's just and you think, and then Arjunanda sees Abe. He's chewing the same thing. Let me also chew. Let me get it from Abe the next time. This is what's going on in the material world. Everybody just looks and says, he's doing that. He's doing this thing. Let me also try. And then what else is Prahlad Maharaj saying? Anda yatandir upaniya manas te pisha tantriam uru damni baddha. He's saying that anda yatandir, it's like the blind leading the blind. That's not a good combo. If you need a seeing person to lead the blind. But if a blind person is saying, come, I'll show you the way. and then so if a blind person is leading a blind person, then they're just going nowhere. It's like a chicken with this is a graphic example. It's like a chicken with its head cut off. It's like the society is moving. It's the arms are working, the legs are working, everything's moving, but you're actually going nowhere. This is the reality of the material world. Prahlad Maharaj is saying this is why we have to help them. By sharing this gift of like joy. Once you get in, it's hard to get out. And the way Krishna consciousness works is that you get in Krishna consciousness, and then you read the Bhagavad Gita, you read chapter 14, which is one of personally it hit me very hard, chapter 14, because you see the modes of material nature acting and then you know too much about the fallacies of the material world, and then trying to enjoy this temporary world, and you see that it's so small, and then after that you go try and enjoy. Let's say right now I decide I want to go and do something in the material world and enjoy my senses. I'll start getting verses in my head. Anda yatande rupaniya manas. Punas charvita charvanana. All these verses will come in my head. You can't enjoy the material world properly anymore. So like that is like the mafia. You know too much to get in, and now you know too much to get out. So Prahlad was not thinking about his own welfare, but he was just thinking about everyone. And this is the importance of sharing Krishna consciousness, especially in the, as Kadambakana Maharaj said, the heartbeat of Maya. This is a Times Square. He said it was like the heart, when he was there, he said this is the heartbeat of Maya. and he said, and so New York you could see is like the arteries, the surrounding arteries of the heart of Maya. So that's the only reason we're here, right? Is Srila Prabhupada left Vrindavan and he came to New York City. And it's not that we like the city life or these attachments are very temporary. Actually better to go and live simply somewhere else. But we're here exclusively for the sharing of Krishna consciousness, because if you can, as the old saying goes, if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. So Srila Prabhupada left Vrindavan, which is considered, there's a nice book in the library, I was just looking at it the other day. It's called Srila Prabhupada at Radha Damodar by Mahanidhi Swami. And this book, it describes that Radha Damodar is considered the center of the spiritual world. And one of the reasons Maharaj was giving in why it's the center of the spiritual world, if you look at all the samadhis, the major samadhis of our acharyas, Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, why are they at Radha Damodar? Why couldn't Rupa Goswami's samadhi be at Radha Govindji? Why couldn't Sanatana Goswami's samadhi be at Radha Madan Mohan? These are logical questions. These are their Ishtadev deities. Why are they not at their respective temples? Because if you look at the intrinsic reason is that the last Goswami, all the Goswamis had left. Who was the last Goswami remaining? Jiva Goswami. And to show the faith that they're giving to Jiva Goswami, to empower Jiva Goswami to share this message to the world, and Jiva Goswami was empowered himself. They wanted their samadhis to be at Radha Damodar, the temple of the main deities of Jiva Goswami. And who else is there in the altar? The deities of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, the deities of Lokanath. Even if you look, there's Rupa Goswami Samadhi, Sanatana Goswami Samadhi, and who's right perpendicular? It's Bhugarbha Goswami. Is also there. And so all the Goswamis of Vrindavan, all their mercy is at Radha Damodar temple. And Prabhupada was there for years, sweeping and crying at the feet of, at the samadhi of Rupa Goswami. And that's why it's considered the center of the spiritual world. Because we are getting the mercy of Rupa Manjari. We're getting the mercy of Sanatana Goswami. And Prabhupada left that to come to the Bowery and to share this Krishna consciousness. That is why the sacrifice is so great. So Prabhupada left from the spiritual world, from the center of the spiritual world, to come here. But argument may come, that's Prabhupada, that we should wait until we're completely pure. We should study all 4 Vedas and then we'll preach. This is the argument that a lot of people give, is that why practice bhakti now? Practice bhakti later. You preach later. You first become perfect now. I'll study the whole everything and this. Yes, we will study, but as we get purified by the natural acting of Krishna consciousness, what happens? We feel more insignificant. We feel like when we start doing the Chaito Darpana Marjanam, when we start cleaning the lust-encrusted mirror of the heart, then actually we see, okay, there's actually a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of work to be done here. And so Prabhupada said, we just have to repeat exactly what our acharyas say and always endeavor to have high sadhana. Make sure you're chanting your 16 rounds with full attention. Make sure you're reading your daily quota of Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. One famous purport in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhupada saying that if the members of the Krishna Conscious Society do not read all the translated books, namely Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Chaitanya Charitamrita, they will soon just eat, sleep, and fall down from their position. So we must make an endeavor always to read all the books translated by Srila Prabhupada. It's such a gift that Prabhupada has given us in these books. We don't have to. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was searching for years for Chaitanya Charitamrita in the marketplace in Bengal, but he couldn't find it. But we have it on our shelves, but Prabhupada named Bhagavad Gita as it is. We like to leave it as it is. This is the problem with our mentality. So, but also as we share Krishna consciousness, faith is also built. Have you noticed that when we're on the street, when we're distributing books, when someone asks, what's this all about, and then you're like, you don't know what to say. Then you have to really go into okay, what did I actually read? What is this about? What is Krishna consciousness all about? And then we tell them according to our adhikar, our realization, and that adhikar is transferred onto that person. They're like, okay, we get it, So actually, when preaching stops, that's when the problems start. Mahatma Prabhu has a very nice T-shirt. It says when all problems start when the kirtan stops. So actually, when the preaching stops, that's when problems start. Knowledge, we amass so much knowledge in the head, but if it's not shared, then it actually gets plundered. You lose it. If you don't use it, you lose it. So knowledge is compared to in the Gita as a lamp. There's a famous verse. Anybody know it? Where Krishna is saying knowledge is like a lamp.
Expel the darkness of ignorance.
Tesham evanu kampartam aham agyana jamtama nasyamya atma bhavasto jnana deepena bhasvata. So the lamp is meant to light other lamps. That's how a lamp continues. Is that if one lamp lights another lamp and another lights, but if there's no oxygen, let's say we put a cup on top of the lamp, it dies. The fire dies. So formerly, some of the brahmanas who were not so up to standard, they wanted to keep the knowledge for themselves. Then society had a reversal. Brahmanas lost potency and purity. And so much so that brahmanas actually, I see in India, brahmanas actually start maya shrishtam guna karma vibhagasa, not janma. It is guna. That is what makes a brahmana. Actually, we have a devotee in Columbus, Ohio. His name is Prem Sindhu Prabhu, and he shares this wonderful story. When he was in college, he went to IIT somewhere, and and he had a roommate in college. And then the first day he's like, hi, my name is so and so, and then they met, and then he's like, oh, you're a follower of ISKCON. I am Brahmana too. I'm a Brahmin. And what he would do, but then the next day he saw that this person was eating chicken. He brought chicken into the dorm, was eating it, and he saw the ritual. What he would do, he would go get in his gamcha. He would take his Brahmin thread, put it on the hook, eat the chicken, take a shower, and then put the Brahmin thread back. This is and then so Prem Sindhu was like, oh, this is the Brahmana that we're dealing with. So this is the quality of Brahmanism nowadays. Of course, so we need to have this knowledge, and we need to share it, and that is actually ultimate Brahmanism. I was just hearing Prabhupada say that in the lecture this morning. So Srila Prabhupada had the same mood, getting on the ship. What was he saying on the ship? Ani acho jari prabhu amar nachate nachao prabhu nachao semate kashtera putali jata nachao semate. Oh Lord, I am just a puppet. Nachao means just make me dance. You have brought me here. Just make me dance, Krishna. Make me dance. Nachao. He says it 3 times. Nachao semate. So this is complete dependence on Krishna. I was reading somewhere that if we just understood the amount of faith it took Srila Prabhupada to just even get on the boat. It's like amazing. Bhakti Charan Maharaj, I was there in New Vrindavan in 2016. He came up to a group of us young kids. I was probably 16 or 15 then. And he came up to us and he said, oh, so you do understand the mercy Srila Prabhupada has given you? And we're like, yeah, he gave us the books. He did the Bowery. He did everything. And then he said, oh, you think you understand? And it was just me and a couple of friends. He said, actually, when you come to my age, I am 70 now, and once you have come to my age and you feel the aches and body pains and the mental distress of being 70 years old, then you will actually be able to fully understand what amount of faith it took to get on that boat in 1965. That's what Bhakti Charan Maharaj told us, and it's a very nice understanding. So Srila Prabhupada and Prahlad Maharaj had this complete dependence on the Lord. Krishna, it is all up. It's all on you. I am just your instrument. And I'd just like to mention, so I mentioned tolerance, I mentioned preaching. I'd just like to touch on this topic of dependence, which I just brought up. And in this last verse, I'm going to quote from Prahlad Maharaj. He says in Canto 7, Chapter 9, Text 19, he says, Balasya neha sharanam pitaro nirsimha nartasya chagadam udvanti majhato no taptasya tat pradividhir ya ahanja cheshtas Tavad vibho tanubhritam tavad upekshitanam. So we think we're protected by three people. We think we're our parents, our ultimate protector. We think the physician can actually protect us, and we think a boat while drowning it can protect us. Actually, Prahlad Maharaj is saying is that these things are not our protectors. Actually, all protection comes from you, dear Nrsimhadev. If you think about what parents protect the child for some circumstance, but when the parent passes away, what happens? We're on our own. And so many parents nowadays, they just for the sake of trying to gratify their senses for 2 seconds, they want to kill their own children. They try to kill, it doesn't work. Try to kill again, doesn't work. Even inside the womb. This is so even in Kali Yuga, parents can't protect the children, not fully. So actually, the understanding is parents are who gives who is the consciousness of the parent. The consciousness of the parent is you, Krishna. You are the ultimate. You're giving them consciousness, and you are protecting the child. So actually, ultimately, the protector is Nrsimhadev, Krishna. It is Krishna. And a physician protect. Prahlad Maharaj's words, Prabhupada's translation. For example, a father and mother cannot protect their child. A physician and medicine cannot relieve a suffering patient. I was just hearing, he accidentally consumed poison. So Radha Govinda Maharaj was carrying this boy to the hospital, and they went to the doctors and they started pumping. I don't know if I've seen through my sister's, she's shown me some videos of how they pump. So they pump the stomach so the poison comes out. And so they're pumping the stomach so everything comes out. And then so Radha Govinda Maharaj is happy that this devotee's son is safe. And then the doctor comes up to Radha Govinda Maharaj and says, even you Hare Krishnas have to come take shelter of us doctors. Why don't you go to Krishna with your after pumping the poison? He says, why don't you go to Krishna and ask him to pump poison out of this boy's stomach? Actually, we are the saviors of this. And then Radha Govinda Maharaj is like, no, actually, you are not the savior of this child. Krishna is actually the savior of this child. Who gave you the intelligence? Krishna says, I am the remembrance in man. I give them. Who has taught you to to remember all your medical school knowledge? But this argument actually went over the head of. Actually, I remember that it went over the head of the doctor. And Radha Govinda Maharaj tried another approach. He said, "Dear doctor, do patients die in your hospital?" He said, "Yes, patients die." And he says, "What medicine do you give to make them die?" He said, "I don't give any medicine to make them die." So they die. How do they die? They die out of their own karma. And then so the doctor, and then the Radha Govinda Maharaj says, same way how the patients die out of their own karma, and same way the patients live out of their own karma. Mare Krishna rake Krishna mare ke. If Krishna wants to kill you, who can save you? If Krishna wants you alive, who can kill you? This is the understanding. So this dependence on Krishna that Anukulyasya sankalpa, Sharanagati. What is that verse? Anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam rakshisyati vishvaso goprite varanam tata atman nikshepa karpanye shadvida saranagati. These are the 6 limbs of surrender. When we want to surrender, it's very practical. If you look at, we're coming from a Hindu background, there's actually no like clear path on, people just give like, especially growing up here, and then you go to the Hindu temple or any temple, you might get, they just give you vague ways. Or they'll tell you, juhosi, yad korosi, yad asasi, jajosi, yad tapasyasi kauntaya, tad kurosi. Just do your work properly, and everything will be okay. You go to Krishna. You work in the factory 8 hours a day, and that'll take you. Mahadav Seva, Manav Seva. They'll give all this bogus philosophy on how to reach Krishna. They'll just give you like various things. And they'll completely misquote the Gita. But our acharyas have given us such a step-by-step process on how to reach the ultimate goal, that it's such a gift. So just like that, we should really value this pastime of Prahlad Maharaj, and due to his mature devotional service. So his devotional service was very, it was a topmost class. And so the 3 things that, there's many things, you can churn the Bhagavatam over and over again, and you shouldn't read the Bhagavatam. You should always, Pibata Bhagavata Rasam Alayam. You should drink the Bhagavatam. And so these are 3 things that I kind of got from this pastime of Prahlad Maharaj, is this tolerance of Prahlad Maharaj, this preaching of Prahlad Maharaj, the sharing of Krishna consciousness, and the dependence, complete dependence on Krishna, and with the accompaniment of chanting the holy names. And Prabhupada makes this, such meditation is still more conveniently performed by chanting and hearing the holy name of the Lord. This Prabhupada makes that statement. So in Kali Yuga, we can just take shelter of this Bhagavatam and chant this Maha Mantra, and we will be sure to reach the ultimate stage of perfection, and especially taking shelter of this pastime of Prahlad Maharaj. So it's 9:02. Hare Krishna. Any comments, questions, corrections? I would be grateful to hear.
We can discuss more after. Otherwise, we're going to get into the habit of ending the Bhagavatam.
Okay. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol.